The unforgiving wind whipped down 63rd Street on Chicago's South Side, carrying the scent of exhaust fumes and desperation. For Darnell "Lil Ghost" Matthews, this concrete expanse wasn't just a street. It was a living, breathing entity, a crucible where loyalty was everything and betrayal meant a swift, brutal death. Here, the Black Disciples, BDs, weren't just a gang. They were family, protection, and the only law that truly mattered. Darnell was molded by these streets. His childhood was a mosaic of sirens, gunshots, and the constant hustle to survive. He saw older kids with wads of cash, flashy cars, and the respect that came with fear. His home, a cramped apartment in a dilapidated building, offered little solace from the harsh realities outside. School was a distant concept, the lessons learned in alleyways and on street corners proving far more vital. At just 14, thin and quick, with eyes that saw everything, Darnell was recruited. It wasn't a choice, it was an inevitability. He joined the ranks of the BDs, eager to find his place, to earn the protection and camaraderie that came with wearing the gang's colors. He quickly proved his worth. Darnell was cold, calculated, and possessed a loyalty that seemed unshakable. He ran errands, acted as a lookout, and quickly graduated to moving product. By 19, his reputation preceded him. He wasn't just another foot soldier. He was managing crews, orchestrating complex drug deals, and moving serious weight across multiple blocks. His methodical approach and ruthless efficiency earned him respect, not just from the street-level dealers, but from the upper echelons of the BD hierarchy. He'd started from nothing, endured the initiation, and clawed his way to a position of power. He was a true son of 63rd Street, a Black Disciple through and through. But even in this world of hardened criminals, Darnell carried a secret, a festering wound that would eventually redefine his understanding of loyalty. Darnell "Lil Ghost" Matthews rose fast in the Black Disciples, but the streets of Chicago hide dark truths. What secret is he carrying? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters of this shocking story. Insert your YouTube channel link here. Remember, this is a fictional story based on real events. Chapter 2. The Weight of the Crown. Darnell's rise within the Black Disciples was relentless. By 19, he wasn't just managing crews. He was an architect of their operations, moving massive quantities of drugs, from crack cocaine to potent opioids, across the South Side. His territory around 63rd Street became a fortress of profit, a well-oiled machine contributing significantly to the BD's formidable enterprise. He earned his moniker, Lil Ghost, not just for his quiet demeanor, but for his uncanny ability to move product and eliminate problems without leaving a trace. He was respected, feared, and deemed absolutely loyal. Darnell oversaw everything, collecting taxes from smaller dealers, ensuring supply lines were secure, and enforcing the strict codes of the BDs. He'd orchestrated countless robberies, ambushed rival gangster disciples, GDs, and when the situation demanded, pulled the trigger without hesitation. He lived and breathed the life, never having known any other form of employment. The tattoos covering his arms and neck told stories of past battles, fallen comrades, and an unbreakable bond with his family. Darnell commanded crews of hardened young men, some even older than him, who looked up to him as a leader. He knew every alleyway, every stash house, every safe haven on his blocks. He understood the intricate dance between the street-level hustle and the power plays, orchestrated by the OGs and shot callers further up the chain. His discipline was legendary. He didn't indulge in the flashiest cars or the most ostentatious jewelry. For Darnell, power was in control, in the efficiency of his operations, and in the unwavering loyalty he demanded, and seemingly gave, to the BDs. Behind the hardened exterior, however, Darnell carried a growing, corrosive burden. A secret that gnawed at his insides, a betrayal that he hadn't yet fully grasped. His older brother, Trey, a promising young man who had tried to stay out of the gang life, had been gunned down years ago. Everyone on 63rd Street, including Darnell, believed it was a GD hit, a brutal act of street warfare. This belief fueled Darnell's ruthlessness, turning him into the cold enforcer he was. But the truth, slowly simmering beneath the surface, was far more insidious, and it threatened to shatter everything he believed in. Chapter 3. The Whisper and the Shift. The chilling truth arrived on a cold, unforgiving night in Chicago, cutting through Darnell's carefully constructed world like a razor. He was visiting an old BD member, a veteran named Pops, wasting away from a fentanyl addiction in a rundown apartment on the outskirts of their territory. Pops, delirious and in his final hours, whispered words that would forever change Darnell's life. Trey wasn't no GD, lil ghost, was from within. Him. Pops coughed, his eyes rolling back, a skeletal finger pointing vaguely towards the street. The words were slurred, almost incoherent, but Darnell's mind latched onto them with a chilling certainty. From within, someone close. The idea, so foreign, so utterly repulsive to everything he believed about BD loyalty, sent a jolt of ice through his veins. That night, Darnell Lil Ghost Matthews changed. The rage that had fueled his ascent in the Black Disciples, the rage against the gangster disciples for Trey's death, now twisted into a venomous, calculating fury directed inward. The street, once his only home, now felt like a cage. He stopped shooting and started thinking. His eyes, always observant, became scanners, searching for inconsistencies, for tells. He began collecting names, tracing phone calls, listening more than speaking. Every conversation was a puzzle piece, every casual glance a potential clue. He watched the OGs, the shot callers, the men he once revered as family. He revisited old rumors, revisited the details of Trey's death. The official narrative, once so clear, now fractured into 1,000 suspicious fragments. He saw the cold alliances, the internal power struggles, the ruthless efficiency with which the BDs dealt with any perceived threat. The loyalty he had sworn, the brotherhood he cherished, felt like a cruel deception. He knew he was playing a deadly game, risking everything. But the truth about Trey consumed him. And in that consuming darkness, a desperate, dangerous plan began to form. To turn the BD's greatest strength, their internal network, against them, from within. The thought of reaching out to the gangster disciples, GDs, the sworn enemy of the Black Disciples, was repugnant. It went against every fiber of Darnell's being, every street code he'd ever lived by. But the whisper of Pops, the truth about Trey's murder coming from within his own family, festered. Darnell realized that to truly avenge his brother and survive, he had to make the impossible choice: betrayal. He spent weeks meticulously planning his approach. It couldn't be direct. That was suicide. He needed an intermediary, someone with a foot in both worlds, but loyal to neither. He found his contact in a low-ranking GD shot caller named Smokey, a young ambitious kid from a rival block who had a reputation for being pragmatic and less bound by rigid gang dogma. Darnell had met Smokey during a botched drug deal years ago, where Darnell had shown him a rare, unexpected moment of mercy, a detail Smokey hadn't forgotten. The first meeting was a tense, clandestine affair in a deserted park, under the cover of a freezing Chicago night. Darnell arrived unarmed, a gesture of trust that felt like a betrayal to his own skin. "I got something you want," Darnell began, his voice low, steady, devoid of emotion. "More than money, more than turf. I got the BDs from the inside." Smokey's eyes, hardened by years on the streets, narrowed. He knew Darnell's reputation, the Lil Ghost of the BDs. This was either a trap or the biggest score of his life. For hours, Darnell laid out his terms, his story, and a small, undeniable piece of intel as proof. He spoke of the internal corruption, the hidden weaknesses, the specific targets he could provide. He revealed that he was doing it for revenge, for a truth long buried. Smokey, seeing the genuine coldness and desperation in Darnell's eyes, knew this wasn't a trap. This was raw, unfiltered betrayal. "What do you want?" Smokey finally asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Survival," Darnell replied, "and to see them burn." Darnell Lil Ghost Matthews just made a deal with the devil. What explosive intel will he feed the gangster disciples? Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapters of this ultimate betrayal. Remember, this is a fictional story based on real events. For months, Darnell Lil Ghost Matthews lived a chilling double life. By day, he was the loyal, efficient BD leader, managing his crews, making decisions, and maintaining his reputation on 63rd Street. By night, he was a ghost of a different kind, feeding lethal intelligence to the gangster disciples, GDs, slowly poisoning the very family that had betrayed his own. He started small, providing intel on less crucial drug drop locations, knowing the GDs would use it to their advantage, causing minor disruptions for the BDs. Then, he escalated. Money runs, carefully planned by the BDs, would mysteriously be ambushed by GDs who seemed to know the exact route and timing. Gun caches, hidden deep within abandoned buildings, were suddenly discovered by law enforcement, leading to massive seizures and arrests that crippled the BD's firepower. Darnell fed them details on rival BD crews' movements, leading to targeted assassinations that thinned their ranks and created internal panic. The streets of Southside Chicago became a chessboard, and Darnell was playing both sides. He delivered information that led to raids, arrests, and internal fractures within the Black Disciples. No one suspected the poison was coming from within. The BDs blamed the GDs for their renewed aggression and uncanny intelligence, intensifying the gang war. They also began to suspect internal leaks, but their focus was on lower-level members or rival BD sets, never on a respected leader like Darnell. He was a master of deception. When a BD crew would get hit, Darnell would be among the first to call for retaliation, to mourn the fallen, to strategize new defenses. He maintained his cold, calculated demeanor, never letting on the true source of the BD's mounting problems. The tension within the Black Disciples grew palpable. Trust eroded, paranoia set in, and lines of communication broke down. Darnell watched his former family crumble from the inside, piece by piece, fueled by the bitter justice he sought for Trey. As Darnell's covert operations continued, the Black Disciples began to hemorrhage. The consistent losses in drug shipments, the increasing number of arrests, and the targeted eliminations of key players created widespread panic and distrust within the ranks. The whispers of an inside job grew louder, circulating like a deadly virus through the tight-knit network of 63rd Street and beyond. Darnell, ever the strategist, excelled at deflecting suspicion. He skillfully pointed fingers at rival BD sets, at overzealous law enforcement, even at new, unknown players entering the Southside drug game. He staged internal investigations, tightening security in his own crews, making it appear as though he was fiercely loyal and equally affected by the recent setbacks. He even orchestrated a few fake leaks to the GDs, feeding them misinformation that led to dead ends or minor skirmishes, just enough to keep his cover intact while still subtly undermining the BDs. But the streets talk, and in a world where loyalty is currency, the smallest crack can lead to a complete fracture. Word began to reach Big Mo, Darnell's OG. Big Mo was a legend on the South Side, a ruthless enforcer whose loyalty to the BDs was unquestionable, and whose tolerance for disloyalty was zero. He had personally mentored Darnell, seen him rise, and considered him a son. Now that trust was being tested by the relentless barrage of losses. Whispers of Darnell's name began to surface in unexpected places. A low-ranking BD soldier, caught in a GD ambush Darnell had orchestrated, screamed, "Lil Ghost set us up!" before being silenced. A pattern of compromised operations, all linked to areas Darnell had recently overseen or received intel on, started to become undeniable to Big Mo's hardened mind. The pieces slowly, terrifyingly, began to connect. The poison, he realized, was coming from someone he trusted implicitly. Big Mo, a man who saw betrayal as the ultimate sin, began to plan his move, and Darnell, unbeknownst to him, was walking into a meticulously laid trap. The chill of a Chicago winter night clung to the air, making the breath fog in front of Darnell's face as he walked down Ashland Avenue. He was on his way to what he believed was a routine late-night meet with a courier. The street was unusually quiet, the only sounds the distant wail of a police siren and the rhythmic hum of his own uneasy thoughts. A prickle of unease ran down his spine, a feeling he knew all too well from years of living on the edge. As he neared the abandoned liquor store, its windows boarded up and its facade crumbling, the silence became deafening. Too quiet. Darnell's instincts screamed at him. Before he could react, shadows detached themselves from the deeper darkness. Figures emerged from the alleyways, their faces obscured but their intent clear. It wasn't the GDs, it was his own family. Lil Ghost, a voice, low and guttural, cut through the night. It was Big Mo. His face, usually a mask of calm authority, was contorted with a mixture of pain and righteous fury. "You sold us out, boy. You sold me out." Darnell didn't deny it. The game was up. He moved, instinctively reaching for the 9mm tucked into his waistband, but he was too slow. A blinding flash, then the deafening roar of a shotgun. The impact felt like a freight train hitting his chest. He stumbled back, the force of the blast throwing him against the grimy wall of the liquor store. Another shot rang out, this one hitting his lower back. Pain, sharp and excruciating, lanced through him. He crumpled to the ground, his vision blurring. Big Mo stood over him, his face a grim mask. Traitors get what they deserve. Darnell felt a boot connect with his ribs. Then darkness enveloped him. His last sensation was the cold, damp concrete against his cheek and the distant sound of a dumpster lid clanging shut. He was left for dead, just another body in the war-torn heart of South Side Chicago, a victim of the very betrayal he had orchestrated. Darnell Lil Ghost Matthews was ambushed and left for dead. Did he survive the ultimate betrayal, or did his secrets die with him? Subscribe to the channel to witness the shocking continuation of this story of survival. Remember, this is a fictional story based on real events. The putrid smell of rotting garbage and stale beer was the first thing Darnell registered. Then the cold, seeping into his bones. He lay crumpled in the bottom of a dumpster, his body screaming in agony. The liquor store's crumbling brick wall blurred above him. He was alive, barely. The two shots, one to his chest, one to his lower back, had missed vital organs but had done devastating damage. A raw, burning pain shot through his spine. Hours passed, or maybe days. Time was meaningless in the abyss of his pain. He drifted in and out of consciousness, fueled by a primal will to survive that transcended even the betrayal. He remembered Big Mo's face, cold and unforgiving. He remembered Trey. This wasn't how his story ended. Not after all he'd done, all he'd risked. Using what little strength he had, Darnell clawed his way to the top of the refuse. His body protested with every agonizing inch. He was a broken man, but his spirit, forged in the fires of 63rd Street, refused to yield. He dragged himself out of the dumpster, collapsing onto the grimy alley floor. The cold night air was a brutal embrace. He was bleeding, shivering, and the numbness in his legs was a terrifying new reality. He found refuge in a long-abandoned crack den, a place so derelict even the addicts avoided it. There, alone in the darkness, Darnell began the agonizing process of healing. He knew he couldn't go to a hospital. That was a death sentence. He relied on old street knowledge, on the resilience of a body that had endured countless traumas. His back was shattered, his mobility severely compromised, but he was alive. And with that fragile breath of life, a new identity began to form. Darnell Lil Ghost Matthews was dead. What remained was a phantom, ready to disappear from Chicago forever, carrying a secret that could still rewrite the rules of the gang war. The path to disappearance was agonizingly slow and fraught with peril for Darnell. His shattered spine meant every movement was a painful ordeal, limiting his options. But his mind, sharp and strategic as ever, remained intact. He leveraged what little untraceable cash he had stashed away and made contact with the few remaining individuals he could trust outside the BD and GD networks: old street pharmacists, a crooked ID broker, and a former fence who owed him a favor. He forged new documents, creating a pristine, untraceable identity. He cut all ties, not just with the gangs, but with any vestige of his old life. He knew the BDs were still hunting him, fueled by Big Mo's rage, and the GDs might also want him silenced, either for knowing too much or simply to eliminate a loose end. Darnell was truly alone, a phantom drifting through the underworld, desperate for an escape route. The choice of where to go was critical. The Federal Witness Protection Program was an option, but Darnell distrusted any arm of the government, knowing how easily it could be corrupted or infiltrated. Mexico, with its vast, intricate criminal landscape, offered anonymity, a chance to truly vanish into the shadows. He used his last remaining connections to arrange passage across the border, a perilous journey for a man with a broken body and a bounty on his head. No one really knows where Darnell ultimately landed. Some whisper he disappeared into the witness program, his testimony destroying even more of the BDs from the inside. His face and identity changed forever. Others say he made it to Mexico, melting into the millions of undocumented souls, living a quiet life of constant vigilance. The fact remained: he was gone. His mother, heartbroken but resilient, received a coded call every day, a single, short message confirming he was alive, but never revealing his location. Darnell had escaped, but the price of his survival was an eternal exile. Darnell Lil Ghost Matthews vanished. His disappearance became a legend whispered on 63rd Street and throughout Southside Chicago. The BD crew he had managed, the one led by Big Mo, was decimated. The intel Darnell fed the gangster disciples, GDs, before his ambush led to a series of targeted arrests, successful drug busts, and bloody territorial takeovers that fundamentally reshaped the gang landscape. The BDs were severely weakened, their internal trust shattered, their operations fractured. The gang war continued, of course, but the rules had been rewritten. The GDs gained significant ground, capitalizing on the chaos Darnell orchestrated. Law enforcement, while publicly claiming victory and dismantling portions of the BDs, never fully acknowledged the role of an insider. The larger truth of betrayal, of a man burning his own world to avenge a fallen brother, remained a secret, a testament to the shadows where true power and vengeance operate. Big Mo never forgot the betrayal. He intensified the hunt for Darnell, his rage fueling a relentless pursuit that yielded nothing but frustration. The ultimate dishonor was not just the intel, but the fact that Darnell, a man he saw as his son, had lived to tell, or not tell, the tale. Darnell, wherever he was, lived a life of quiet anonymity, haunted by the ghosts of his past. The shattered spine served as a constant physical reminder of his betrayal, a literal and metaphorical brokenness. He had destroyed an entire BD crew from within, rewritten the rules of the gang war in Chicago, and lived to tell the tale. But the telling was reserved for the silence of his own mind, the only witness to the full cost of survival. He was a survivor, yes, but also a monument to revenge, a man whose choices carved a bloody path through the heart of Chicago's criminal underworld. Darnell Lil Ghost Matthews defied death and rewrote the rules of gang war in Chicago. His story is a chilling look into the true cost of betrayal and survival. If this intense narrative resonated with you, subscribe to the channel for more untold stories from the shadows. Remember, this is a fictional story based on real events.